Richard Goodall, the winner of America's Got Talent, is finally back here in Indiana tonight.
That's right. He started his day going back to work at the school where he first earned his fame.
However, the real story didn't end with the standing ovation. When the lights went dark and the stage fell silent, Richard's life took turns no one saw coming. Twists, triumphs, choices that left even his biggest supporters stunned, and now, what he's about to do next might be his boldest move yet. Richard's journey to America's Got Talent. Richard Goodall's story is one of those rare tales that feels almost too extraordinary to be real. A man who spent most of his life working quietly as a janitor in the hallways of a middle school in Terre Haute, Indiana, suddenly found himself standing in front of the entire world and capturing its heart with nothing more than his voice. But what happened after the applause, after the headlines, and after the stage lights dimmed is the part of Richard's journey no one was prepared for. Richard Goodall was born in Indianapolis, but his life and career were deeply rooted in Terre Haute. For more than 2 decades, he worked as a janitor at West Vigo Middle School, a place where he was more than just an employee. He became part of the daily rhythm of the school. Students knew him as the friendly face who kept the hallways clean, but they also knew him as something more, the janitor with a powerful singing voice. Richard was never a professional entertainer, yet his talent was undeniable. He often sang while working, filling the school with music in the most unexpected moments. Over time, his singing became a source of joy for the staff and students, who would pause to listen whenever his voice carried down the hall. For years, this was the extent of Richard's audience. He was respected in his community and loved by the students, but the idea of performing on a national stage seemed far away. That changed in 2022, when a video of him singing Journey's "Don't Stop Believin'" was uploaded online. The video spread quickly on TikTok, and suddenly people outside of Terre Haute were discovering the voice of the so-called singing janitor. Within days, the clip was being shared thousands of times, and within weeks, it caught the attention of national outlets. More importantly, it reached the producers of America's Got Talent. For Richard, the invitation to audition was life-changing, but it also came with its own firsts. He had never traveled far from home, and flying was something he had never experienced. In May of 2024, he boarded a plane for the very first time, heading west beyond Missouri to Los Angeles for the audition that would change his life. When he walked onto the America's Got Talent stage, Richard was not a polished performer in the traditional sense. He was a middle-aged man who had spent his life working in schools, and now he was standing in front of judges, cameras, and a massive audience. But the moment he began singing "Don't Stop Believin'," the nerves gave way to pure emotion. His performance was raw and powerful, and it resonated deeply with both the audience and the judges. That performance became the turning point. It did not just impress the panel. It propelled him directly into the spotlight in a way he could never have predicted. The golden buzzer moment sealed his place in the live shows, and almost instantly, millions of viewers were invested in his journey. The audition video spread rapidly online, collecting tens of millions of views and making Richard a viral sensation. Headlines described his story as one of the most inspiring in the history of the show. For many people, he became a symbol of persistence and hope, and the idea that it is never too late for life to take a new direction. Richard's journey through the competition showed the world just how much he loved music, as well as the personal connections behind his song choices. In the quarterfinals, he performed Michael Bolton's "How Am I Supposed to Live Without You?" and this performance carried special meaning. He dedicated it to his fiancée, Angie Vanovan, who had been a steady presence in his life and a source of encouragement. The performance was emotional and heartfelt, and it reinforced the idea that Richard's voice was more than just technically strong. It carried the weight of personal experience and genuine feeling. By the time the semifinals arrived, Richard had proved that he was not just a viral sensation but a true competitor. He chose to perform "Eye of the Tiger" by Survivor, a song that demanded energy and strength. It was a bold choice that showed another side of his voice. He delivered it with grit and determination, drawing praise for his ability to adapt while still staying true to himself. In the finals, he returned to the music of Journey with the song "Faithfully." This was not just a performance for the competition, it was also a deeply personal moment. Richard had been singing this song to Angie long before America's Got Talent, and now he was sharing it with the world. The grand finale marked the culmination of everything Richard had worked toward. Once again, he performed Don't Stop Believin', but this time, he did not sing alone. He was joined on stage by Neil Schon and other members of Journey, the very band whose music had carried him to this moment. This was the fulfillment of a dream he never thought possible, standing shoulder to shoulder with the musicians who had inspired him since the beginning. It was not just a performance. It was a celebration of his journey from the hallways of a school in Indiana to the biggest stage in America. In September 2024, Richard Goodall was crowned the winner of America's Got Talent Season 19. The victory came with a $1 million prize and the validation of millions of viewers who had supported him since his audition. Yet, even in the midst of this life-changing moment, Richard's story was marked by personal milestones as well. Just 6 days before the finale, he married Angie Vanoven in Pasadena, California, blending his triumph on stage with a personal triumph in life. This chapter of Richard's journey was nothing short of extraordinary, but what happened after the confetti fell was just as important. Winning the show was not the end of his story. It was the beginning of an entirely new chapter. And behind the excitement of the victory, Richard faced personal challenges, new expectations, and the reality of life after the spotlight. The battles behind the voice. Behind every powerful voice lies a story, and Richard Goodall's voice carries more than just musical notes. It carries loss, hardship, and resilience. His journey to winning America's Got Talent may have seemed like an overnight success, but the truth is that his path was marked by tragedy and years of setbacks that tested his strength. These experiences gave depth to his performances and allowed audiences to feel the raw honesty in every song he sang. For one, Richard has had to face one of the hardest losses a person can face: the death of a spouse. In 2021, Richard's first wife, Patricia Sue Goodall, passed away after a battle with kidney cancer. Her death left an enormous void in his life. Richard had built years of memories with her, and losing her so suddenly forced him into a period of grief that shaped everything that came afterward. When he later stood on the America's Got Talent stage and sang songs about love, resilience, and holding on, it wasn't just performance, it was expression. The emotion behind his voice came directly from that personal loss, and audiences connected with it because it was so real. While grief weighed heavily on him, Richard also faced challenges with his health. In 2024, barely a month after his big win, Richard faced an unexpected setback: hernia surgery. Coming off the whirlwind high of one of the most physically and emotionally demanding moments of his life, being forced to slow down so suddenly wasn't just a challenge. It was a major hurdle. Recovery meant regaining strength and confidence, and it became a turning point in how he took care of himself. Richard's resilience can be traced all the way back to his childhood in Indiana. He grew up in modest circumstances with limited financial resources. Life was not always easy, but music was a constant. Singing became an outlet and a way to rise above the challenges around him. It was never about fame or wealth. It was about expression and the joy of sharing his voice. That love for music carried him through difficult times and laid the foundation for the journey that would one day lead him to a national stage. But before his big break, Richard also knew the sting of rejection. Long before America's Got Talent, he had auditioned for The Voice, another talent competition. That attempt did not lead to success, and for many people it would have been enough reason to stop trying. But Richard was not the kind of person who gave up easily. Even after getting rejected, he continued to sing, continued to practice, and continued to share his voice with anyone who would listen. Looking back, those rejections were part of what made his eventual victory so meaningful. He proved that persistence, even in the face of closed doors, could lead to something bigger. Another major breaking point came during the pandemic. Richard had been part of a gospel band that performed regularly, but the sudden shutdowns forced the group to disband. Losing that community of musicians was another blow. It meant fewer opportunities to perform and connect with audiences. Instead of letting that stop him, Richard refocused on singing as a solo act, and it was this shift that eventually helped him find his own unique style and prepared him for the moment when America's Got Talent would open its doors. Amid the struggles, there were also unexpected blessings. Richard met Angie Vanoven, the woman who would become his partner in life, in 2022. And Angie became much more than just a romantic connection. She became his emotional anchor. She encouraged him, supported his music, and helped him believe in himself at times when self-doubt crept in. Angie stood beside him through his journey on America's Got Talent, and their relationship became one of the most important parts of his story. But Angie's impact on Richard's life went even deeper. She played a key role in helping him reconnect with a piece of his past that had always been missing. With her support, Richard was able to track down his biological father, a retired K-9 officer and Army veteran. The two met for the first time in 2025, decades after Richard had grown up without knowing him. That meeting was more than just an introduction. It was the start of a new relationship that allowed Richard to fill a gap he had carried his whole life. He took to his social media to share the news, saying, "Thanks to Ancestry and Angie, I found my biological father. He is a retired K-9 police officer in Indy, not to mention a retired Army veteran. He has no children, so you can imagine his shock to find out after all these years. He has a son. While I can't tell you the whole story, he wasn't even told I existed. And he used to play drums, guitar, and mandolin. A huge thank you to my Angie. Had it not been for her, I wouldn't have tried to look." Along with meeting his father, Richard also discovered 3 siblings he had never known existed. These new family bonds gave him a sense of belonging and closure he had not expected at this stage of life. His journey to America's Got Talent was not only emotional but also practical. Traveling to Los Angeles, staying in hotels, and taking time off work all carried expenses. Richard's story resonated so strongly with people in his community that fans stepped in to help. Reports indicated that supporters crowdfunded his travel expenses, making it possible for him to pursue the opportunity without the crushing weight of financial stress. This overwhelming support showed how deeply people believed in his story and his talent. He was no longer just the singing janitor at a middle school in Indiana. He was someone people wanted to see succeed on the national stage. When audiences watched Richard sing on television, what they heard was not just the result of practice or natural ability. It was the voice of someone who had lived through loss, health struggles, rejection, and reinvention. All of these tragedies and triumphs created the foundation for the man who eventually stood under the bright lights of America's Got Talent. But winning the competition did not erase the hardships of the past, and it did not guarantee an easy road forward. After the applause faded and the cameras turned away, Richard was left to face a new reality, where fame came with challenges, expectations, and personal adjustments. And his life after America's Got Talent would prove that victory was only the start of another chapter. Life after the win. Winning America's Got Talent in 2024 was the kind of moment that could have completely changed Richard Goodall's life. The $1 million prize, the national recognition, and the opportunities that came with it seemed to set him on a path toward full-time stardom. But what surprised many people was how little his day-to-day life actually changed once the cameras were gone. Instead of leaving behind the hallways of West Vigo Middle School, Richard chose to return to his job as a janitor, the same position he had held for more than 20 years. This decision reflected the core of who Richard was and still is. While most talent show winners chase record deals and move to bigger cities, Richard went back to the school that had been his home. For him, singing had always been a passion, but it was never about escaping the life he already lived. His students and colleagues continued to see him sweeping floors, cleaning classrooms, and keeping the school in order, just as he had done before his audition. The only difference now was that the rest of the country also knew his name. In a recent interview, he said, "I'm still at the school, but things are going on behind the scenes, you know. Some concerts are popping up. A lot of amazing things are just popping up, so I'll continue to work at the school until, I can't anymore." Winning America's Got Talent opened doors that allowed Richard to share his voice in places he never imagined. Soon after his victory, he was invited to perform at major public events. He sang at an Indiana Pacers game, bringing his voice from the school hallways to a packed sports arena. He also performed at the Circle of Lights, a beloved annual tradition in Indianapolis that draws huge crowds each year. Later, he traveled to California, where he opened for Howie Mandel, one of the very judges who had seen him win on national television. He also took part in the Riverside Festival of Lights, further solidifying his place as a performer who could move effortlessly from small-town stages to large-scale celebrations. Back in Terre Haute, the recognition was just as meaningful. His hometown celebrated him not only as a television star, but as one of their own. The city presented him with a key, a symbolic honor given only to individuals who make a significant impact on their community. At West Vigo Middle School, a pep rally was held in his honor, with students and staff celebrating the man they had always known as more than just a custodian. For the school, Richard's success was proof that extraordinary dreams could grow out of ordinary places. Through all of this, Richard maintained the same humility that made him beloved in the first place. He often shared glimpses of his life on social media, and these posts showed a man who had not traded his roots for fame. Photos of him cleaning cafeterias, waxing floors, and joking with students continued to appear, reminding fans that he was still the same person who had been sweeping floors long before anyone outside of Terre Haute knew his name. When asked about balancing fame with his everyday life, Richard often pointed out that he was still the same man, only with a microphone now. It was a simple way of describing how he saw himself, not as a celebrity, but as someone whose life had expanded to include stages and audiences far beyond Indiana. Speaking about how much the show transformed his life, he said, "As far as I and my wife go, this is the first time our life has been unscripted. America's Got Talent has not only changed our life, but money aside, the opportunities are kind of endless right now." Richard's decision to remain grounded after winning America's Got Talent set him apart from many other winners. Music and fame were not replacements for the life he had already built. Instead, they were extensions of it. The janitor from Indiana who sang in the school hallways was now the same man performing at festivals, basketball games, and special events. His humility became part of his brand, and fans admired him not only for his voice, but also for his refusal to let fame change who he was. At the same time, these performances and honors hinted at the beginning of something larger. While he never abandoned his work at West Vigo Middle School, Richard's opportunities to sing continued to grow. What started as a viral video had now turned into a series of invitations that stretched across the country. Each performance, each honor, and each public appearance built momentum toward a music career that was only just beginning to take shape. The start of a music career. After his win on America's Got Talent, Richard Goodall did not rush into the music industry. He stayed grounded, kept his job at West Vigo Middle School, and performed at events while carefully considering his next steps. Speaking about his plans to kickstart a career in entertainment, he said, "I'm still working at the school. It's wait and see if this entertainment thing takes off. If it doesn't, hey, we've had a lot of fun. I'm trying to show the entertainment industry I've got what it takes. It's not something that happens overnight. People want you to prove yourself before they actually hire you in to do this or that." Richard recently officially announced his debut single, "Long Time Coming," with a release date set for August 29, 2025. The title itself seemed fitting for a man who had waited decades for the chance to share his voice with the world on a professional level, and for the fans who had followed his story from the school hallways to the America's Got Talent stage. In the months leading up to the single's release, Richard had teased parts of the process on social media. He shared photos and short clips from recording sessions in Nashville, the city long considered the heart of American music. Richard also joined a local band called Sugar Street, giving him a way to continue performing live while preparing for his solo career. The collaboration allowed him to blend community-based performances with the larger opportunities that were now opening to him nationally. At the same time, he began working with professional music managers, a move that signaled he was ready to expand beyond regional stages. His story also began attracting interest beyond music. Publishing companies reached out about the possibility of a book deal, and brands started discussions about endorsements. The idea of Richard sharing his life story in a memoir appealed to many, given the depth of his journey and the challenges he had overcome. His wife, Angie, added fuel to speculation by hinting at the possibility of a biopic, while Richard, known for his sense of humor, joked that Zac Efron could play him if the project ever came to life. One of the most visible moments in this new chapter of his life came in August 2025, when Richard returned to America's Got Talent for the show's 20th anniversary special. This appearance was both a celebration and a full-circle moment. He opened the show with Eye of the Tiger, the song that had carried him through the semifinals during his winning season. This time, though, he was not alone. The performance was a large-scale production, backed by talent from across America's Got Talent history. The packed drumline from season 17 added rhythm and intensity. Dancers from Los Osos High School, who competed in season 19, brought energy and movement to the stage. And Avery Dixon, the saxophonist who gained national attention in season 17, joined in with his signature sound, amongst many others. The collaboration turned Richard's return into more than just a solo performance. It was a celebration of how America's Got Talent had brought together performers of all kinds over the years. For Richard, it was a surreal reminder of how far he had come since nervously stepping onto the audition stage for the first time. During the special, Richard reflected on his original audition by watching it back on screen. Seeing himself at that moment singing "Don't Stop Believin'" before the world knew his name brought up strong emotions. The experience reminded him of how much his life had changed in just over a year, from sweeping floors in Terre Haute to sharing the stage with performers from across the world. Richard described the return as surreal and life-changing, not because of the lights or cameras, but because it reminded him of the journey that had led him there. His story was no longer just about a janitor who surprised the world with his voice. It had grown into the story of a man building a career in music while staying connected to his roots. What's next for Richard Goodall? Winning America's Got Talent was not the end of Richard Goodall's story. If anything, it was the beginning of a new chapter. With his new debut single, performances on big stages, and a growing fan base, Richard has already begun shaping a career in music. But beyond the spotlight, he has also been looking ahead to the personal life he wants to build with his wife, Angie. One of Richard's next steps is planning for retirement from his longtime job as a janitor at West Vigo Middle School. For more than 2 decades, the school had been his workplace, his community, and the place where he first became known as the singing janitor. But now, with national recognition and new opportunities unfolding, he has started to consider stepping away from the work that defined much of his life. Moving on does not mean leaving behind what the school gave him, but it means finally allowing himself to enjoy the rewards of years of dedication and hard work. Part of that vision includes moving somewhere warmer. Richard and Angie have reportedly spoken about the possibility of relocating to Florida, a state that not only offers sunshine and beaches, but also a pace of life that fits the fresh start they are looking for. After years of hardship and challenges, the couple wants to begin this new stage of life in a place that feels like renewal. Buying a new home together is one of Richard's main goals, a step that represents stability and the chance to create lasting memories in a place of their own choosing. Professionally, Richard is focused on building his music career beyond his debut single. He has expressed interest in collaborating with Simon Cowell, who played a key role in recognizing his talent during America's Got Talent. Working with someone who has decades of experience in developing artists could open new doors for Richard as he learns to navigate the music industry. At the same time, he continues to explore live performance opportunities, recording sessions, and even the potential of a full album in the future. But even as he plans for a larger career in music, Richard has made it clear that he does not want to lose the connection to the people who helped him get there. From the students at his school to the fans, Richard has never forgotten the role that community support played in his journey. He has been actively giving back, taking time to interact with fans online, participating in local events, and using his platform to inspire others who feel overlooked or underestimated. His story has shown that opportunities can appear at any stage in life, and he wants others to see that possibility for themselves. The future now feels open in a way it never did before for Richard. A year before his audition, he was a man sweeping floors, cleaning classrooms, and carrying his love for music quietly. Now he is standing at the edge of new possibilities. Singles, albums, collaborations, and a personal life rebuilt after hardship. He often reflects on that contrast when asked about what lies ahead. In his own words, "The sky's the limit. I had no expectations doing all this. The future, it's unwritten now. Whereas a year ago, I was just the guy that took out the trash and wiped the tables, and now possibilities are kind of endless." Richard's journey is far from over. What began in a school hallway has expanded onto stages across the country and into the hearts of millions. The next chapter will determine how far his music career can grow, how he balances fame with family, and how he chooses to carry his story forward. Whether in Florida, on tour, or back in Terre Haute celebrating with his community, Richard Goodall's future will continue to be shaped by the same qualities that carried him this far, and that's humility, persistence, and an unshakable love for music. Which artist would you love to see Richard Goodall collaborate with? Tell us in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click on the next video on your screen, like this video, and subscribe to our channel for more updates.